जय जय सुरनायक जन सुखदायक प्रणत पाल भगवंता गोद्विजहितकारी जय सुरारी सिंधु सुता प्रियकंता पालन सुरधरणी अद्भुत करणी मरम न जानई कोई जो सहज कृपाला दीन दयाला करहु अनुग्रह सोई करहु अनुग्रह सोई जय जय अविनाशी सब घट बासी व्यापक परमानंदा अभिगत गोतीतम चरित पुनीतम माया रहित मुकुंदा जेहि लागी बिरागी अति अनुरागी विगत मोह मुनि वृंदा निशिबासर द्यावहि गुणगण गावहि जयति सच्चिदानंदा जयति सच्चिदानंदा जेहि सृष्टि उपाई त्रिविध बनाई संग सहाय न दूजा सो करहु अखारी चिंत हमारी जानिय भगति न पूजा जो भव भय भंजन मुनि मन रंजन गंजन विपति बरूथा मन बच क्रम बानी छाड़ी सयानी सरन सकल सुर जूथा सरन सकल सुर जूथा सारद श्रुति शेषा ऋषय शेषा जाकहु कोई नहीं जाना जेहि दीन पियारे वेद पुकारे द्रवहु सुश्री भगवाना भव बारिधि मंदर सब विधि सुंदर गुण मंदिर सुख पुंजा मुनि सिद्ध सकल सुर परम भयातुर नमत नाथ पद कंजा नमत नाथ पद कंजा जय जय अविनाशी सब घटवासी बक परमानंदा अभिगत गोतीतम चरित पुनीतम माया रहित मुकुंदा जेहि लागी विरागी अति अनुरागी विगत मोह मुनि वृंदा निशिबासर द्यावहि गुणगण गावहि जयति सच्चिदानंदा जयति सच्चिदानंदा।
You want to say? I'll just say something. Then. So, it just came to me that this spiritual path that we are on is inherently contradictory, it's inherently confusing. Because the tools that we use for life, can reduce this a bit? The tools that we use for life are unable to be used for this spiritual project. So, at one level, it seems completely difficult and impossible because we endeavor with the same tools. Those are the only tools we think we have. And at another level, it seems completely effortless because we can't use those tools for this anyway. So, in the dropping of them, we seem to be better at times on this spiritual path. So, that inherent contradiction, it's almost like trying to grab space, and then sometimes we realize that we can't grab space, so we rest and say, okay, if space has to come to me, then space will come. I can't do it. You see? And yet, if we turn our attention away from space, then it seems to get distant from us. So it is natural for us to lament on the spiritual path, saying, so which way, what am I actually supposed to do? If I turn away from space, then it seems to become distant, I seem to get disconnected. And if I grasp at it too much, then I can't do it, it is not necessarily proportionate to my attempt, my effort. And many times it is easy to get very frustrated if we using a lot of our willpower, so to speak, on this spiritual path. And because this inherent difficulty is not going to go away, it is the most difficult, it is the most challenging for our ego, for our sense of self-identity to be on this path. Because anytime you feel like you're succeeding, your ego gets slapped. Anytime you feel like you're failing, your ego gets slapped. So either way, the ego cannot win in this process. If we continue on the path of true spirituality, the ego cannot win. But what sometimes can happen is that we can take a piece of this spiritual project and make it about that piece, and then start to become proud of some accomplishment as far as that piece, and that like piece of a pie, not the piece of PEAC. Okay? So you may say that I can truly deeply inquire. You see? And in my inquiry 3 years ago, I saw that I am awareness. You see? So the mind can use that sort of isolate a certain experience or lack of experience and make that into something that we can put a flag on and say that this is my spiritual accomplishment and this is therefore what makes me special. But because God inherently is just too broad for us to ever be able to grasp, you see, if we never get off the true spiritual project, there's nothing that we can truly say that I have accomplished in this path. Because He is all-encompassing and we are, the seeker aspect of us is much too limited. See? So this seeker gets more and more dissolved into the greater reality, and whatever little bit of the seeker still remains, learns to remain in servitude, in a deep love and a deep relationship with God. Because the truth is inherently ineffable, cannot be conveyed, cannot be heard, cannot be spoken, cannot be understood. No tactic, no strategy, no approach is a guarantee, because the truth is way beyond our human ways of working. So what really is then one going to say about it? And what really is anyone going to hear about it? Because beyond the saying and the hearing is the truth. But our intellect is inherently dual, full of duality. So then it makes a new position that therefore then I should not say or I should not hear. You see? But in the not saying and not hearing also it doesn't happen. So there is no real escape for our limited understanding. You see? So then, given the complexity of this whole task, the complexity of the human condition, one of the pathways then to God must be to return to that within us which does not clamor for understanding, does not clamor for sense making. And that is the child, the innocence of a child, which has been retained fully in its pristine nature in our heart. So, in our hearts, in our spiritual core, in our spiritual center, we remain full of that innocence, full of that love, full of that light. And that is why God's darshan only happens over there for us. Of course, we will see that everything is His reflection, even in the worldly appearance. But if you want to have the beyond all of this, just the sheer meeting the place is in our heart, because the place, when we are in our heart, there is no pride, there is no understanding, there is no grasping. We are not troubling ourselves or our brothers and sisters over there. So it is not the mere appearance of Maya, but the loss of innocence because of grasping at Maya, which makes us caught up in this realm of suffering, in this realm of duality, in this realm of me and other. But our spiritual path must lead to that innocence where we come to a point where everything becomes about His will. So, what am I learning in this process? I'm learning that life in front of me, I'm just learning to carry it on a plate and offer it to God and say, I bring this to you, I bring this to you, I bring this to you. I don't know what to do with it. And I'm recognizing that I've never really known, and I'm recognizing that none of us can actually ever really know. So I'm realizing that surrender is not so much about big proclamations, but about just in the simplicity every moment of saying, Lord, I bring this to you. Ramji, I bring this to you. Jesus, I bring this to you. Not necessarily in the words, but at least in our approach, at least in the way we are approaching it. So in this moment, all of you children are in front of me. Do I know what to do with you? I have no idea. I have no idea, because everyone has a different temperament, everyone has a different approach to life, different perspectives, different experiences. So all I can do then is to say, Father, I bring this to you, including this body mind, and use this mouth as you will. And that is the only way I have found that we can really surrender the surrenderer. Otherwise, our surrender also becomes a position. We become very attached to our paths. I see some of you, and I see that unwittingly, when we say that this is my way, it starts off very innocently, but quickly it becomes, there is a possibility of pride, there's a possibility of a grasping, a sort of a reframing of ourselves in this new frame, in which, again, it is so subtle, but we lose that innocence of a child. So really, letting go of that frame every moment and not knowing every moment with full trust, as much trust and devotion and love as possible, we bring everything only to God. Because He can deal with all of it much better than I ever could, or any of us ever could. So this seems to be in continuation with what we were sharing last time, which was that if we know the four things, which is that one, God is aware of every single thing. He is aware of my heartbeat, He is aware of my breath. Not just aware, in fact, He is the one who is the light of all of this. The only true Karta and Bhokta of my life. He is fully aware. And secondly, His love for me is beyond any human love. Has to be much deeper than we can even fathom. So the idea that He does not care about what's happening to me, in my exploration I've seen has to be completely alien to the reality of God. It is just not possible that way. So He is aware and He loves me deeply. And because thirdly, He is away from the bounds of time and space, He has an infinite amount of time for me. He has an infinite amount of time to work on me, to help me in whichever way. That time I do not have in the human condition, but He does. And because He is aware of everything, He loves me deeply, He has an infinite amount of time for me. I have nothing to worry because the fourth thing is that nothing is anything for Him, nothing is difficult for Him. His power is all encompassing without any doubt. There is nothing which is difficult for Him to do. Given that He is like this, wouldn't it be a fallacy, wouldn't it be an ignorance to do this life, which is so complicated with all of its variables and beyond any sort of fathoming and understanding, wouldn't it be foolish to try and do this, run this life based on a human intellect and mind? If there is no other option, then we have to make do with what we have. So for most of us, it seems like there's no other option. I have to make do with this body, mind, intellect suit that I have, organism that I have. But once we are introduced to the truth from credible sources, from the wisest ones that we have met, that actually there is a better way to live, which is to offer every moment to God, and all the content of that moment, as well as the sense of doership, the sense of experiencership, all of this to be offered to God full-heartedly, with no fanciness. It's very important to not be fancy. Because fanciness is the doorway to trouble. Just in the sheer simplicity, like, how do I do this? Not, God, I leave everything to you, my life is yours now. As if you're in some Shakespearean drama. Just the simplicity that I bring this to you. This child asked me this question, what does this mean? I don't know. I bring this to you. Just in that simplicity, and the point of the 4 points is that He is always with us. So we don't need anything special. He doesn't need anything special. Sometimes we may feel like we need some steps in the process. We need to breathe along with the prayer, and we need to count, or we need to use a mala, all of that. Fanciness is all right because we need that for ourselves. But He doesn't need any of the fanciness from us, because if we just went to Him and said, God, see this, that is enough. That's a prayer. You see what I'm saying? Just dekho. That's a prayer. And I've been noticing, and I shared that day also with Georgie, that most of our time goes in this conversation with ourselves, the false selves. Even in our attempt to understand, especially in our attempts to solve problems, resolve things, we're just squeezing more and more stuff into our heads. And the symptom of that is worry, anxiety, trouble, suffering, because our heads are too tiny to try and squeeze all of this. Just like we cannot squeeze the ocean into a lemon, we cannot squeeze our life into our heads. And when you start to get worried, that is a sign that you're misusing your mind. You can't handle it, so it starts to complain. Leave it. So to worry, we have to negate at least one of the 4 things, isn't it? He's not all powerful, He does not have time for me, He does not love me, or He does not know what is happening. And all 4 of them are absurdly silly, that if God was empty of any of these attributes, then He would not be God. So this surrendered life is also the life in which true insight can happen. You try to worry, you try to think, resolve your things, operate in doership, operate in duality, an intuitive insight will seem like a far-fetched proposition. It just won't happen because you're not switching out of the false tools and living in the true place. So what I'm saying is that anytime we have the temptation to take on something, just offer it to God instead. Because the beauty of this is when you're not taking on anything, then He is working on us anyway. So beautiful. Saint Teresa of Avila, she said, when I'm empty of myself, He works on my heart. And if you just hear one line like that, He works on my heart. He who has infinite time, for whom everything is easy, He can elevate my heart. And the heart is that aspect of us which can be pulled up like that, no? And pulls the rest of us. Have you seen like that? That it doesn't have to feel like going up like that. It can sometimes feel a very great deepening as well. And either way, it is rising to meet God. But because everything is so interconnected, it pulls the rest of what I take myself to be, and it pulls in some way or the other, whether the world likes it or not, admits it or not, also those around one who is being pulled in that way also get pulled in. Just like this movement of Satsang, which is so organic that it was never a plan for any of you to be here, either from my side or from yours, and yet it is just part of that pulling, which is not restricted to a particular body mind, but to some thing which only God decides what is the boundary of that pulling. And maybe there is no boundary. Maybe some effect happens for the entire universe in some way. So, and that kind of work no human can ever do for themselves. Only God can do this. So the seeming duality and the seeming union, or the seeming duality and the seeming closeness of the relationship, whichever way you want to look at it, because both are these human constructs. You realize that both are human constructs. Like an Advaitin will say that my way is better because there is no duality, it is all oneness. But one is also a human construct. The absence of duality is also a human construct. And Bhakta will say that I want to forever be at his feet and serve him. You see, I don't want to merge with him, that sounds like too much. I just want to be able to love him and look at him and serve him. And these are also human constructs. And human constructs can never really capture the essence of the truth. And none of us can really capture what we are meeting in our hearts into any words. But if there are words that are spoken and they bring us to the innocence and help us return to our hearts, where then He can help us in this way by bringing us closer or bringing us to union, whichever human construct we want to apply. So the main point is, don't, when the temptation comes to take something on for yourself, like this is my problem, or this is my, I own something, or this is my life, or this I have to solve, deepen in the habit of bringing it to God. And in our bringing it to God, then we make ourselves available to be worked on by Him. And the light which is in our heart then can spread into every aspect of our being and every aspect of this universe. One of the things which is one of the biggest tricks of the mind is good money chasing bad money. What is that trick? Yeah. So, and I hear this lamentation from many of you that I'm very upset because I wasted the whole of yesterday. Yeah? And in that upsetness of wasting the whole of yesterday, we will waste at least half of today. It happened. So that is, in business terms, it is called good money chasing bad money. You made a bad investment, you say, okay, now a little bit more, I'll fix it, little bit more, I'll fix it. By doing that, it gets us into that distance or disconnection from our heart by despairing and lamenting. Many times it's not just despairing and lamenting, I'm saying for myself that sometimes it's just like, oh, where did the whole day go? I didn't even remember God. No, I'm like, okay, now most of the day is gone like this. Tomorrow you start properly. Start with your sadhana properly, which is good to do, but don't waste the rest of that day. It can happen with our fasting sometimes, no? Same thing. So it's just like, okay, now you've eaten, now you might as well have a chocolate cake also. Now it can become like that. So these are the subtle tricks. So these simple, subtle tricks work on us. And it is our simplicity and returning to Him which will prevent them from working on us. So if you're complicating things, we've already gone too far. If you're being fancy, that's what I mean by fancy, just like something. So by being fancy, I don't mean that if you want to contemplate the nature of awareness, you want to look at the presence of consciousness. Just because these words are big doesn't mean that we're being fancy unless we're just being fancy about that. What I mean is, if your friend has said, if you ever need me, just wave at me. Your friend has told us. And then when we need our friend, we are like, which way should I wave? Should I wave like this, or should I wave like this? What will be better for the field of vision for them to see? That is what I mean by don't complicate things. Because there is nothing literally that we can do to get God to misunderstand us. There is nothing we can do. So either, I wanted to actually offer this to God or surrender to Him, but He misunderstood. Nothing we can do. So there is nothing ever that will make us not know what our intention is. So we don't have to worry about the technique so much, just the intention. And don't worry about waiting for perfection. I used to do like this when I started in spirituality many decades ago. So if I came across a beautiful text, you see, then I start reading it and say, wow, this is so beautiful. But you know what, I must be missing most of it because originally it was in Sanskrit. So why don't I learn Sanskrit first and then I'll really grasp the text. And did I ever learn Sanskrit? Of course not. There's just perfection getting in the way of the mind's tactic of, it should be. So we don't need any of that. God has already given us everything we need. That doesn't mean that we should not learn Sanskrit, or if you want to Latin or whatever you want to learn. It's completely fine. But don't let that become a block or a postponement of what you're feeling divinely inspired to do. There are many people who don't do puja because they feel like, I don't have the right ucharan in Sanskrit for this puja. When will we ever have it? There is no such thing as perfection in any language. So when will we perfectly pronounce even a single syllable? We just can't do it. Nobody can. So don't wait for these kind of things. If your breath is imperfect in the Atma Darshan Samadhi, it doesn't matter, do it still. If you're not coming to Samadhi, it doesn't matter. Still you're taking the name of God. If you're not feeling the bhava, if you're not feeling the love in your heart, Doesn't matter, still do. If Sarvikalpa and Nirvikalpa are just concepts for you, and that kind of emptiness seems alien, don't worry about it. And this is for anything that you feel inspired to do. That is one aspect. The other aspect is celebrating too soon. There's a scientific name for that. What is it? Something done something chroning principle, something. Huh? What does this principle say? That when we are first exposed to something, then many times very quickly we will feel like we have some mastery over it and we become really good. Okay? Then it starts to stabilize and that sort of irrational exuberance starts to fall off. And then we realize, oh no, actually this has a lot more depth than I initially considered. So let me look at it, and we have that great fall in our self-confidence in some way. And then we start to really take this tiny steps back to improvement that are needed. So both lamenting and saying not happening and celebrating too soon, usually just signs of trouble. So all of this that is being shared is just so that we can keep our self in that innocence, in that holiness, for God to work on our hearts. And what is being offered is just remain simple. You want to start?
Father, when you went to not lament and to not feel like a sense of achievement, and to be totally empty, it is like there is no path.
There's no path.
There's no path, because in a path, if I see myself walking on a path, then I am always going to be either too slow or I'm feeling very happy with my progress.
Yeah.
And then when there is no path, and that moment of empty is all that is needed, and as you said, moment to moment, and it seems to be, I mean, that's it. But then we know the humanness of us, and that we slip out of being in that moment. And sometimes I wonder, because Father, like even...
Let's pause for one moment. So let's explore for a few minutes together on this. The pointing, it is a very beautiful pointing of the pathless path or the no path. And possibly if you were to take an aggregate of the 12 years of satsang that this one has shared, the main essence would have been the pathless path or no path. What is the... Okay, so let's not even say what is the purpose of sharing it in that way. Let's say if someone hears that there is no path, what are the two options available in front of them? Yeah, exactly. So So I say to you, there is no path. You could reject it and say, he talks rubbish. He can keep his no path. I am happy on my path. So rejection. Now, the second is acceptance that, okay, there is no path. But in that acceptance, what is the no path being accepted as? As a path.
The way
You see what I'm saying? So, even the point, and it is shared with that intention. So, when I shared it, and I'm sharing it for so many years, that there is no path to God because, and today's satsang actually we started like that because He is so beyond any human instrument, there cannot really be a path. But it is shared in that intention that people or those the listeners takes this on as the path, isn't it? Otherwise, why are we sharing it? Knowing fully well that most will reject this path of the pathless path, but the few may accept the fact that the path is pathless, is the path. So, and that is why in the intellect there is really no winning. You see? Whichever way you look at it, it becomes that. You say, I'm not going to plan, that becomes a new plan. I'm going to live only spontaneously, that becomes then non-spontaneous, spontaneous living. You see? So there's no real way in our mind intellect to escape it. You see? And so when the path of innocence is being offered, or simplicity is being offered, it is also being offered like innocence means not having a plan. Like an infant doesn't have a plan, but it's been offered to all of us as a plan, as an offering. You see? Till then, that innocence itself has to eat itself up as a plan. You see? It has to, in some way, then eat itself up as a plan. So, because the mind is so tricky, it can say, okay, now if the infants have it, you see, everyone's saying return to that innocence of a child, only the children will enter the kingdom of heaven, all of these things. Then we may make a tactic saying, let me just then observe children and just stay with them and then learn this. But even that doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because there is something to having gotten into that trap of Maya and then escaping that trap of Maya and then sharing from there versus just the sheer innocence which a child has. So, our sheer incapacity or helplessness on the spiritual path, the inability to really be able to grasp and conclude this way or this way, anything at all, is what makes it so daunting for most brothers and sisters. Makes it so daunting. Like, I come to satsang, is it like this or is it like that? How am I supposed to be? It can be such a seeming struggle, but in the attempt to divest from the wrong instrument, maybe this struggle is very much part of the process.
And then, Father, the most daunting thing also, if in the last few months, for me personally, has been that, like when someone like yourself explains that it's not like it's, I've I've known the truth, I know the truth. And then that's it. You sometimes speak about how you have also to stay with it. Like it is not a
one shot.
one shot. So then there again, it's like if it's not that, then it's not really something to tick box. Or like I will do this, I will know this, and I will. It seemed to me in that sharing that even that is I don't know.
And that is very much symptomatic of this path where, and in a way, the irrational exuberance what I was talking about, because there will be many times in our lives where we will feel that the real pointers of the scripture are so apparent to you right now in this moment, the sheer oneness of it, the sheer recognition of yourself as Nirguna Brahman is so apparent. And yet, in the circle of life, in this play of life, uh, we cannot deny that Maya still gets us from point to point, and it's a constant job. We can never say, "Oh, done now, tick, tick. Now, what is next?" Or it's the end of next now, forever. But as daunting as that may seem, for me, objectively trying to be as objective as possible, what is the alternative is like a million times more daunting. Is it? As difficult as it may seem, uh, to lead a life where I'm just taking myself to be the false one and there is no connection, no relationship with God, that just seems. So, no matter how difficult a true life may seem, a zombie life can never be an alternative. Okay.
And perhaps for one who knows God, the zombie life is definitely not ever a thing, because it just I mean there is knowledge of bliss, right?
Okay, let me see if I understood that. So, are you saying that for one who has come to an insight about God's reality and God's presence in our heart, they can never return to zombie life, is it? You see?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I feel it's very possible. In fact, I feel like, I don't know, we'll explore this together, but I feel like there's a possibility of a zombie life which is worse than before.
With the ego.
With the spiritual pride, with the Ravan type idea. So, maybe a much worse sort of zombie life where, at least in regular human life, we are not that proud. You know? We still pray Holy Diwali, at least we pray. You know? But this kind of when spiritual pride hits us, then we become very, like, even strong suffering doesn't shake it till for a long time. You see? Because we can just keep applying the balm of spiritual concepts and say, actually nothing is happening to me. I'm not the experiencer. I'm not the doer. But you can sense that the fragrance is gone completely missing from that. And we can keep in our pride that I don't want to let go of my perch, which is higher than everybody else. Then we get into a denial about our inner condition, the state of our being. And our being is a very, very beautiful instrument. Our being, like being, capital B, is the being of just pure consciousness, being. untouched. But when we speak of our being, then we're talking about all the layers of our existence. And as much as we would like to wish away our intellect, as much as we would like to wish away our emotion, as much as we would like to wish away the realm of perception, this waking state is very resilient. It keeps coming back and it keeps offering things in all of these things. So, but I found that the more we learn to be attentive to the true being, then that which seems like the rest of my being also, then that seems to permeate more and more. And in a way that maybe is that is what I'm calling when I was saying rising up or the transcending, whichever way you look at it, the immersion or the union of myself into God has to have the recognition of the oneness with God as well as the continued merging of that which is still considered to be me or the rest of me. So I'm realizing that when Tulsidas Ji or Saint Teresa talks about the company that we keep, it is a lot to do with the inner company that we are keeping. Like if I was to keep the company of resentment or grievances or pride, that has such a corrosive impact on the state of my being. And vice versa, like in the company of love, compassion, kindness, just stretching a little bit for a brother or sister, these little things, then the complexion of what's inside seems to sweeten, seems to deepen.
In this book, in Invitation to Freedom, and my journey with all of this started with chancing on that book one day, and so with that word is used like invitation to freedom, and actually it is just that brief insight through that exercise that I am not the mind. But then it is not freedom because it is all that seems to be like actually just the first baby step to this knowledge or whatever. I mean, I've just said pathless and I'm talking steps, so there we go. But the thing is that I just wondered sometimes, like, I suppose is not important, Father, but sometimes I feel like I'd love to understand, like, what is this? Like, there are these terms like insight, then there is freedom, then there is transcendence, then there is I guess enlightenment, and I don't know, at some point, if you think it's helpful, I would love to understand.
In consciousness, speaking with consciousness, I remember we worked on a glossary of terms. Now, I'm sure if I read it now, I want to tear it all up, but maybe there's something helpful there. But really, most importantly, I hope all of you are getting the sense that it is not really in the to define is to basically draw the boundary. Like to define in a way is to confine. Like to confine the meaning of something as cat meaning has to be like this, has to meow and not bark. You see, so we're confining the boundary of a being by the basis of the definition that we give to it. So, but the true understanding really is just that which is known in a deeper place, and there then the outer definitions, all the outer words become little lighter, and these bubbles you can play with rather than strong boundaries. And actually, in that, then becomes a great softness in our life also, because we're not so strongly defining this is bad, this is good, this is wrong, this is right. We're becoming a little open about this and realizing that good and bad is all from God. What comes from God is good. What comes from my pride and ego is not good. So where are my definitions and claims coming from? So then that makes us a bit lighter and easier. Putting everyone to sleep, I'm going to sleep. Just simple, heartfelt. If this life can be spent as an earnest temple priest, then I feel it's fine. Earnest is very important. What does an earnest temple priest do? Somebody gives him something. They say, oh, okay, now let's work on this. What do you think? What do I think? No, that's not the job of an earnest temple priest. Somebody gives him something, he just turns towards God and says, he lays it there, and then at the end of the puja or whatever, he picks up something from there and gives it back to you. It's a simple way of life. As long as there's a me, we just receive, offer it to God, offer it back to the world full of, as a prasad from God. Now, if I was a judgmental temple priest, or you were a judgmental temple priest, how would it be? This? You got this for God? Is it? Very far from the Krishna Sudama story. But isn't that what we're doing with most of our life, with our expectations? We look at our relationships and say, how could you? How dare you? Only this much? So little? Am I not worth so much more? So quickly it's no longer about God. So, but what would an earnest temple priest do? Thank you. I trust what you offer is what your capacity to offer is. I trust the love that you offer is your capacity of love that you offer, and the more it is accepted in a wholehearted way, the more it can then deepen. I'm not saying I do that, I'm still learning how to, but I'm saying that that's how an earnest temple priest would be, that you trust the devotee who comes to the temple and says, this is what I want to give you. And the priest said, it's all for God, and I trust that whatever you're offering must be the highest according to your capacity. I did not expect more from you. And that simple lesson then would be the end of conflict or trouble in relationships. When it is me on the other end, then it is trouble. When it is God, I don't have to worry because He knows. It is none of my business. So, suppose you come to Satsang, you don't pay any attention, you're just on your own trip. I can maybe point as an elder brother, maybe point out and say, maybe something like that. Maybe. But more and more I'm learning that for me, to pray for you may be higher than to point it out to you. Maybe. And if that is the gift that comes, if that is the prasad that comes from God, may it truly be so that if God moves His mouth in that way, then some points of correction may come. But God can work on you much more than I ever could or you ever can. And there's a big trap in those who God has designated as teachers or outer gurus in this world, where the minute the priest starts to feel like it is about him and not about the darshan of God, that can lead to all the mess and all the trouble. And more than anyone else, for themselves as well. What a great disservice it would be that the great unfathomable one is now being presented as a very fathomable, mortal one who ages, one who has worldly needs and desires. Getting a sense of what I'm saying? Like, it is very beneficial for us to have faith and reverence in the priest. Nothing is wrong with that. You see? But if I was to, for example, say that, oh, all of you children, just Ananta is God. Yeah? So, and I may say I'm doing it because it helps your devotion, it helps you focus, it helps you do all of that. Ananta is gone. He is it. So what have I done? I have taken the great unfathomable one and created a misunderstanding of that unlimited greatness and made it about this one. So we can revere the priest, we can love the priest. Not that I'm asking for any of that for this one. I'm just saying generally, I feel like somewhere we've got all mixed up about these things. That it is good to respect the elders. It's good to have reverence for those who are guiding us to God. But it is not healthy for any outer expression instrument to claim godliness or claim the entirety of God for themselves. So, and I see it in sharing so many years of satsang. I see that how the trajectory could move in that direction if grace did not come and point us to in the right path again. How it can quickly become about, oh, but I say like that and I do like this and everything is Ananta, Ananta, Ananta everywhere. Yeah. It's very easy to get into that because it becomes a very strong echo chamber. It becomes a echo chamber where your mind loves to think that everyone around you is saying the same thing and falling at your feet and putting you on a pedestal, doing all of these things. So it's very easy for us to lose track of what this was really about and soon becomes a sort of new Ravan mode without realizing. Yeah. So the faith of a devotee versus the constant vigilance on the part of the one who is sharing the instrument. You see, both are very important. And I don't feel like there is anyone who can say that I have transcended Maya 100%. I'm sure many say that actually, but in my heart I don't feel that Maya operates like that. Only God is Maya Rahit. So in the bhajan when we sing Maya Rahit Mukunda, it's only for God. And most importantly, it's very unhealthy for the health of the instrument itself. The minute you think you know it all, you got it all, you're fully transcended Maya. That is the end of your deepening. So after this body is gone, any of you getting into those traps, will find a way to come and go back. it's good to say these things because you don't know, like I say so many things, but I don't know what gets remembered. Like with every teacher I've gone to, probably I remember that which they least expect me to remember. Because that's how memory works. You just, something just, oh, when he said like that, I'm sure all of you have a few things about this one also. Oh, when we were out like that, that's when you said like this. And I say, I said that. I say, yeah, you said like that. So that's why I just want to make sure I've said all this out. So if you ever in a place, this one is long gone or you've left him or whatever, and you're in a situation in life where somebody wants to name like a temple after you or a building after you or something after you, remember to name it after God. May these words stick with you. Just resist that thing. You're nobody, you're just a mere instrument. What will happen if some structure is named after you? You will be gone soon. Just resist all this temptation. Not that necessarily you will fall for pride if those things happen, but there's very high chance. I'm not trying to make any statement about anything on the outside. I'm just telling you about how I feel my children should live. Not judging any holy ones who are there. I'm just saying that at least for us, those things are beyond. Let's not get into those things. And God wakes us up. He shakes us out of these things. When I heard Francis Chan speak about this, where he said that I was so disappointed because I overheard some chatter from those who came to sermon with me. I was very disappointed because they were talking about how great I am. And the whole point of the sermon was to talk about how great God is. Another statement of his is very beautiful. He says that these stage lights, they have poison. They have poison. You're surrounded by 10 people who are listening to you. Something starts happening to you. It happens. So don't get into any of this stuff because only the audience of one is important. Make no difference. There are 100 listening to you, there are 1,000 listening to you, half the world is listening to you. How are you in God's eyes? That is important. So all of this is interrelated. The more we offer to God, the more you realize how much He is with you, how much He is watching you, how much He is available for you, how much the complexion of your inner being, the presence of love, peace, joy, what is all of that telling you? The inner compass of your heart, how is it guiding you? So if you get stuck in all of these things on the outside, you won't have time for all of this exploration on the inside. So don't do yourself this disservice. you'll get trapped in these kind of things, and soon you won't have time for the true exploration. There's a whole universe inside you, and all of this also arises from God, but need that inner universe also, the subtleties of it, the guidance that comes from it, the sweetness, the seeming sense of distance at times. All of these things are a different way of life. That is the spiritual way of life. Yeah. So don't confuse spiritual way of life with things on the outside like this. It spills over. There is outpouring here also, but most importantly is that inner journey, that inner growth, inner deepening. Many well-intentioned ones get caught up in like a spiritual maya, you see, and then leave no time for the inside.
I want to report that since we added the third, I don't know how to put it, but maybe the third prong of the trident, which is, there was jnana, there was bhakti, and now there's the seva element, which I would maybe call karma, and just seva and karma, right? So it feels like there's a deepening in the immersion in the self through this. When we come to satsang or individually, it just feels like, as a result, the experiencing of the oneness has become much deeper. At the same time, when doing the seva, there's, I noticed that that also sometimes pushes you into goal setting, individuality, sometimes feeling some disappointment, sometimes, just wondering why things aren't happening faster, and that whole kind of, sometimes those elements, those thoughts come in. And so I was wondering about that, because I would say, big picture, it feels like the symphony is getting richer. At the same time, there are discordant notes that it's producing. So I just wanted to that's one thing I just wanted to relay with you and ask you.
Yes. Yes, the first part, of course, we know, but the second part is very important. So the second part is that in any seva project, no. So in any seva project, what happens is that there's a lot of all our spiritual depth gets exposed in any seva project, especially, and I've seen this in all the sanghas that I've been in, because seva happens in a way, because as opposed to corporate life or business life, seva life is very different, because you may say, this is the hierarchy, these are the team leaders, this is how it will flow, but everybody is doing it for God or for their guru, so they don't buy into any of that hierarchy. They will feel like whatever we are feeling is the best way for us to do. And when a few people get together, everyone will have different ideas on what is best and what is the right thing to do and what is the wrong thing to do. And when it happens in that free flow sort of way, then it can take a long time before everybody starts to settle into a way of operation, because everyone comes from a different history, different experiences, different ways of doing things. Maybe everybody is used to taking charge and doing, so nobody knows how to really follow, or everybody is used to following, so nobody knows how to take the lead. All these kind of problems can happen. So seva is one guarantee that will bring everything to the surface. Everything that is festering, all our conditions, all our... It's like that Baba Ramdas statement. If you feel you're enlightened, spend the weekend with your family. The same way, if anyone feels they're enlightened, just do seva collectively as a sangha. This pushing of each other's buttons, someone's being very dominant, some being just very full of inertia. All these things will happen. But by God's grace, as long as we keep it about those ones from the streets that we're helping, And those children who have been given a home, but some of this is important to come up.
And I'm also finding that some other groups, like identity-based groups, when discussions come up which intersect with my learnings in spirituality, either I have to be quiet, and just sort of pretend like I'm not part of the discussion,
Yeah.
or if I jump in and give my own ideas, give whatever share my learnings in some way, even though I try to put it in a secular way, sometimes, I don't know, I feel like very isolated, like not seeking to be understood, but not really. Don't feel like I'm either understood or maybe it's just. I feel like maybe people think that he's just a weirdo.
Just weird.
You know what I mean?
Yes, fully. Fully.
Just ideas.
More
right?
than you can imagine.
So, for instance, if there's a discussion and this experience, people were saying, it was about brainwashing. Just a discussion came about how different identity groups are all brainwashed. And all that. And I just said, look, it's not so much about identifying whether you're brainwashed or not, but it's a little bit more about separating yourself from the thought process itself, and noticing, that you're detached and the witness of it, right? And I just felt like the whole thing just died, and it just died there. Like there was no, somebody tried to make a joke, and then it just died, right? And so I don't know. I mean, is the end goal that you eventually start to detach from all these groups, or
we don't know. Somehow grace will move us. We don't really know. But
friendless in a way,
in a way, yes. Yeah, no, not even denying it. Yeah.
Share with you, because they want to deal with people, your heart, you make friends, but then you just, I don't know how to. Some people may actually get irritated if you bring it up.
Yeah.
Then again, provoking anger.
Yeah. Grace finds a way. So what happened is that at one point I used to work with Cisco. So, and I just something was here that just wanted to share something about what was being seen here. So then what happened is that just a few of us friends, mostly they were hostages because they used to work in my team. So we used to gather every day at about 6 o'clock when we were done with a lot of the work of the day. We would gather at 6 o'clock and we would just start talking about some of these things. And then I would say, how do you know that this is not a dream? And they would look at me like, what a weirdo. Or I would say, that voice in your head? And they would say, you have voices in your head? you need to get yourself checked, and this kind of thing. But one day, so it was mostly in good humor and thing like this. Nobody ever took me too seriously. But one day this boy really had a big tantrum because he came, probably he just wanted to hang and make some friends and do all of that. But by the third or fourth day, he was like, I don't know what you keep talking about, this mind, thoughts. What do you mean then? Are they yours? Are they mine? He had a big temper tantrum. He just told me to shut up and he just went away. Youngster. But at that point he had it, he didn't care about levels and all of that anymore. Because when you speak like that about the mind, it becomes like an attack. So to be considered a weirdo, to be taken to be silly, or just the indifference of it all, oh, he's asking all the big questions, but who can ever come up with the answers? These kind of attitude, and like he's just showing off how smart he is. So these kind of all these things come in response to just a sincere exploration of what is going on here. So yeah, these are very natural things. But then grace got me all of you. You see, grace is so beautiful that I keep saying that there were times where I used to say, I want to join a Sangha where I'm the first Sangha member. And the idea was I'll get to spend so much time with the Guru and be with them so closely and things like that. Because all the Sanghas that I joined already starting to grow very big and things like that. So anyway, so that was the thing. And I realized later that God made me the first Sangha member of this Sangha. So just got all this beauty unfolding around me, which I never expected because I was too introverted to ever want to share satsang or share any of this. I would rather just sit by myself. So we don't know how grace will move. But don't get disheartened with all of this. It's very natural. In Mira's retreat the other day, I heard some boy really lost it and got very angry and upset. It was about the mind. And yeah, so she said, the mind is not really your friend or something like that. And obviously his mind didn't like that. So, big temper tantrum. These things will happen to all of us. Sangha is friends. You can. We are a bit like Shiva's Bharat, but we'll have to do for now. Yeah.
No, Father.
You just telling us about how his friends don't let him speak.
What a weirdo.
Anyway, no escaping. But he knows God is watching.
Father, sir, really there is a lot of resistance for seva, what you mentioned.
Yeah.
And I'm not able to connect in any way. So, in fact, like all the rationalization plays in background, like Otto Raja could not do it in 27 years. What are you going
Can't
to do?
hear. All the rationalization then?
That no one has solved this problem of Jan Seva and make everybody, all problems go away. So why are we trying it now?
Yeah.
Are we another charity, or I will rather sit on Friday and look at this, read or listen some satsang rather than going and trying to solve world's biggest problem. In fact, I also had a mini rage or anger with Arvind, like why you're bringing all this change right away. Everything is going all well. Now every Friday you're asking us to do.
He didn't ask at all.
No, he started, Father, I know. No, but Father, again, yeah, and then the guilty part comes, like how everyone is able to connect, and am I heartless, or is it a question of money, or so many things coming, but I just don't want to come there, Father. I don't know. Again, as you said, different levels and conditionings are getting exposed. I'll wait, Father, and please help.
It's been tough for many of us. It's been tough. So one Guruji I was with said, because I had this question in me that why aren't we doing something, why aren't we at that point, right? In the beginning of my spiritual process. So he said that all the greatest ones have come and gone. Krishna has come and gone, Ramji has come and gone, Jesus has come and gone. The world is the same, if not worse. So I'm not here to fix the world or make it better, I'm just here to play. Something here, I just loved that answer. I was just like, okay, this really helps. Nobody has been able to do anything. Ramji has come and gone, Krishnaji has come and gone. The world is the same. There is even more suffering. So who am I who wants to do something and all of that? So something felt relief probably from that sort of answer. But I feel like let's not do necessarily. I'm not forcing anyone to go there or do anything, and there's not much we can actually do in person there anyway. But can we, when we walk on the streets, can we wave at 5 people, bring a smile on their faces? Can we just, if somebody is looking a bit sad, just ask about their well-being? This much little we can do. So we may not change the world, we may not leave it much better, but at least in that one moment we broke the pattern for that one who was in some mental worry or something like that. Is it? So I would love it if somebody did that to me, if I was just caught up in some mental thing and they just saw me on the street and just waved to me and said hi. It is to break out, like there is some friendliness in this very isolated seeming world. So there are many tiny ways in which we can break out of this shell. And that story is a cliche, but I feel there's something in it. You know that story of the boy who was walking on the beach? He's so all these starfish, they're being pulled to the shore and then they can't swim back, so they die on the beach. So there are thousands on this one beach. So this boy is just picking up and throwing them back. So this man comes and says, but there are hundreds of thousands of these on the beach. How many will you help? So this boy picks up one and throws it. He says, I helped that one. See? There is something in that story. So, but I realized that many of these things can be for like us to feel better about ourselves. So that is why when we went there the other day, I said, what is the way in which we can really help? Instead of like, if we're going there, I don't want it to become like, oh, they have to entertain us or do something for us or, make us feel wanted. Or we don't want to add to their pressure of their life, which is already so complicated. So if we are helping more from the outside by making sure that they have one child has some little bit of jam to eat today when you would have just had a plain bread slice, is enough. What do we need to worry so much about? So will we change the world? Will we change? No, only God can do that. Can we add some jam to somebody's bread slice? Maybe. So sometimes the pressure of how much there is to do also stops us from taking even one step. You see, like, what difference is it going to make? Will I really make a change to anything? Probably not. And it's okay to accept that God has the power to change things. We can just bring a smile on a brother's face or a sister's face. Okay? So don't worry. All this also has to unfold in its own rhythm. And Arvind is not at all. I'm so grateful to him that he got this opportunity to us and to me especially, because I had not visited for a long time after stopping Kushal. which was quite a strong experience for me to having to let go of Kushal Foundation because of lack of fundraising. So I really felt so connected to those children in Ichipura and things. So when I went there, it was so beautiful what they're doing. And I just felt like whatever little bit we can help to do, it'll be good.
But it's really the difference between lip service and actual doing. So I can feel the pain there.
There's a
Difference between the lip service and actual seva. So otherwise, it's easy to say I can serve God or serve humanity, but when it is coming to actuality, I could feel the resistance.
So it's very easy for us to fall into that trap that when we go there, it helps them. I feel like talking to them helps us more than it helps them. Talking to those people who've been abandoned by their families, and now most of them have very strong mental conditions and things like that. It would be pride for us to think that, oh, I'm talking to them, so it's helping them. I feel like just talking to them helps us. So, but really at this point, there is a struggle in that place because they have 800 people, and those 800 people to feed takes 22,000 rupees per meal, breakfast, lunch and dinner. Yeah. Per meal. Per meal for 800 people is right. And that is quite something in itself to be able to feed 800 people in 22,000. So, but it's a constant treadmill that they have to run on, constant treadmill, and by God's grace, they've not skipped. I feel like he said that we've not, by God's grace, something has always come, and we've not had to make anyone go hungry. So, but there are things like they stopped using atta, they only use rice. So there are things which they've had to discontinue. So when I said the other day, what is it that is of immediate need? And she came back after checking, she said immediately our need is for our children to get a decent breakfast before going to school. And she said it could be bread, it could be butter, it could be anything, breakfast things. What else? I think we posted a list. Pasta, just some simple things to make which are filling for them as well. So I felt, let's try. I mean, we may not be able to feed all the children, but whatever little we can do, let's do. Even in this, if we can be simple about it, I feel it will be easier. Okay, we did not feed 800 people, suppose, but we fed 10, we fed 5, we fed one child. It's all right. What is the downside? Friday satsang. There are some 10,000 satsang recordings. How many? At least 5,000 must be there now. It's been 12 years, constant satsang sharing. So satsang can't be it. Anyway, that time is not very good for them anyway. So we may not cancel one satsang. Let's see how it goes.
So this thing which you said, like try and be an honest place.
Yeah.
It solves a lot of problems.
Yeah.
This judgment.
Okay.
They lie, or they don't, or they do that. It's just for God. You do your seva and you can decide.
Now suppose one more thing is there, that suppose you're getting conned. Suppose that somebody is the best actor in the world and they've conned you. Do you feel like God is going to say, you gave all this time, money, energy, all of that, but you got conned, so it doesn't count? Is he going to say like that? Exactly. So we don't have to worry about things that we have no control over. You see? The audience of one, he knows. So if your intention is to really help in the smallest way, you don't have to worry what is their agenda, who's being conned, what is our agenda. That is important. That's all.
Can you also speak a little bit?
Can't you?
Sorry, can you speak about praying? You know, like people keep saying, pray for this one and that one is taken something, and I notice sometimes it comes automatically to pray, and sometimes there's deep resistance and anger even. Why can't we just trust that God must be doing the right thing? Why do we now have to go on making a big... I'm not happy about it, but that's how it's feeling for me. That I feel like guilty if I don't pray, or there's a pressure. And when I have to pray, it just automatically gets prayed. So what should we be doing? We just say what?
It's okay. These things are natural. I'm sure the priest also, there must be people coming to him saying, Maharaj, please, थोड़ा भगवान से, हनुमान जी से ये प्रार्थना करना. And he must be also, his mind also must be saying, ये रोज आ जाते हैं, you know, he's with his tiny problems, not realizing. But what is the job of the earnest priest? That is
What is the job?
the earnest. You tell me, what is the job?
To just ask, don't tell.
Suppose we go to this temple on Saturday sometime. No? We've gone a few times. So the priest over there very sweetly does the puja very beautifully. So I know you kids will say this one finds everyone sweet and this, but suppose you went to him and said, please, Pujari ji, can you just take to Hanuman ji this thing that I have some extra hair growing on my ears. Pujari, what? Get out from my temple. That's not the job of the priest. Whatever the bhaktas bring for God, he's just the communication line.
See, that's the thing. So you just
It's not for us to judge and say, calling me, you're writing to me for a prayer? Are you writing to the whole Sangha for a prayer about this? How could you? How don't you know that God is already taking care? And this thing, we always feel like they should know by now. We always feel they should know by now what we need to learn. Have you noticed this? Whenever we feel that they should know this by now, it is that which we need to learn the most.
So I need to learn to just trust and pray. Don't.
That sounded so much like a Byron Katie
Yeah,
turn
that's
around.
what you just said.
Exactly.
That's what I need to learn.
Just turn it around. So God is taking care of everything except those people who are pestering you about praying.
No. God is taking care.
That is out of His scope.
So God is taking care of everything, and so we need to just trust.
So they need to just trust.
Yes, so then I need to just trust that God is taking care of
Yes,
everything,
including whether they are trusting or not.
including whether
They
they
are
trust or
trusting
not.
or not,
If that's
isn't it?
His problem and not mine.
It's for Him to judge and not for us. It's tough. It's not easy. It's when it happens day after day, where you feel like somebody just not getting the point. It can be tough. So I'm not saying it's always easy, but just our job is to. God has brought that to us. Our job is to bring it to Him and to see if there's any prasad to give them back in return. That's all.
It's not that complicated for me. Like if someone is asking for a prayer, if it's a close friend of mine, I really feel like praying for
If
him.
we are close friends.
If it's a close friend of mine and going through a problem, then I feel
But
like
suppose
praying
they're
for
not
him.
close friends.
If I'm step by step, I'm going there. So now, if I have a possibility of more people praying with me for him, I don't want to deny him that opportunity of me and my friends praying for him.
Ah,
Similarly, in the same lines, if there is someone else somewhere that I don't know about, why should I deny him an opportunity that I'm praying for him, right? In the same rounds.
Right. Good.
It's really complicating things.
That is another thing, that some things are complicated for some, other things are complicated for others.
Other these days, losing temper is like really bad. Like it's like uncontrollable kind of like it doesn't happen, but then it's like 2 months, 3 months once it's happening, and then it's like just so much, and then of course I'm coming back to it, but then that again happens with who it is. Either it is my mom or it'll be her. So it's like that. It's not with strangers or it's
Of
anybody
course.
like that. Like it's like that. And then like I don't know. Yesterday, I mean, I don't know. Yesterday or day before, it was so bad that I was like, why is this happening to me? And then I realized somewhere that just because it happened, I felt better. I don't know why, what. There was no reason to it, but then after some time, I was like, I felt eased out. But then the temper is like really, really bad. I don't know, like.
Yeah. And it's challenging because I had the same temperament of many months of just shanti, 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 and then explosion. So you just have to keep noticing that it doesn't lead to anything good. The mind justifies it. The mind says, "Oh, it was important. It was good. It was Shiva was working through you." All these justifications. But at least when I notice my inner space while angry or expressing anger, it's just not fragrant. It's just not beautiful for God. And as we notice that more and more, that nothing I want to do which makes my inner space not fragrant for God, then it starts to. I'm like much older than you, and I'm still working on this. So don't not worry, but don't worry too much also. It is important to be as free from it as possible. But stressing yourself out more and more about it can lead to more of it happening. So just keep praying, giving it to God. But truly, when our benchmark becomes what is the temperature of my temper, or the inner environment of my heart temple, then everything becomes clear in our life. Because if we start judging from outer parameters, that's too difficult. Because the world will say, "Oh, it is so good, you got angry because see that one behavior changed," and all of this. See, because you have to stand up for yourself and all of these things. But how can it be good when my heart temple is not fragrant.
At that moment, I can tell the same thing in a nicer manner. Like, I know what they're asking for, and then first time I tell in a nice way, and then second time I tell in a nice way, and then third time it is aggression. Like, it's like, again, like you said previously, it's like, what? They're not able to understand this. And then the aggression comes up, like, and then I quickly, like, realize after that aggression that, okay, that's not what it is. Like, everybody is fighting that day to day thing, like, which is going on. And then once that realization happens, like, it just, like, comes down straight away.
Yeah, just when you start to see yourself getting irritated, no? Then return to your prayer or whatever you're doing. Because if you don't, at least in my case, if I don't stop it at the irritation level, then it can become anger. Once it gets to the anger point, it just aggravates. It's been good so far. After we've said in Satsang, after hearing Anandamayi Ma said, it's been much better. I love the way she just took all those objections and just said, oh, Rishi Durvasa, this one, that one, everyone got angry. She said, okay, when you can bring them back to life, when you can burn people with your anger and bring them back to life, then you can get angry. Basically saying, don't get angry. I feel like this one small thing itself can make a lot of difference.
And in anger, what we talk, like that temper was so bad that I didn't even know what I've spoken
Yes,
of.
exactly.
Like, I just couldn't recollect to what level of maybe damage I have done or what, I don't know. But then I just couldn't recollect to what I even spoke.
Exactly.
And then that worried me a lot. Like,
Is
what?
this a nice way of saying sorry or?
No, not her, my mom. It's my mother. It was like, so it was like somewhere the kind of guilt kicked in, like, did I really say something very bad that, could have hurted her? Yes, of course, like, she didn't talk to me till the night. Then morning it was all sobered down.
Yeah. That is the effect of anger. It just makes us into, we say things which we would never say otherwise. So all these small things only become big and cause big trouble in our lives. Grievances. Just hold a tiny grievance with someone and one day it becomes anger. It just festers within us. So our project is to let go of all things which get in the way of our love for God, in our deepening relationship with God. And no excuses. Hands are up. I just saw. How about in satsang, like from Wednesday onwards, we just leave everything open like it is for everyone here. But what happens is that inadvertently somebody speaks into the mic, but that could be all right, I guess. What do you all feel? So if we we did it once, I don't know what happened with that. But if we just leave it free flow, anyone can come and say what will happen. No, that was just these trolls who had come, and that's okay. So Wednesday onwards, let's keep it as if we are in one satsang hall together, and anyone can come turn by turn. Bye.
श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रज निज मन मुकुर सुधारि रामा निज मन मुकुर सुधारि बरनौ रघुबर विमल जसु जो दायक फल चारि तुलसी जो दायक फल चारि बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरो पवन कुमार राम सुमिरो पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु कलेश विकार तुलसी हरहु कलेश विकार। जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीस तिहु लोक उजागर। राम दूत अतुलित बल धामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा। महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी निवार सुमति के संगी। कंचन बरन विराज सुबेसा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा। हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा बिराजे कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे। शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन। विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर। प्रभु चरित सुविवेको रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया। सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा। भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज सवारे। लाए संजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुवीर हर्षि उर लाए। रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बढ़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरतहि सम भाई। सहस बदन तुम रोजस गावे श्रीपति कंठ लगावे। सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद सारद सहित अहिसा। जम कुबेर दिक्पाल जहाते कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाते। तुम उपकार सुग्रीवहि कीन्हा राम मिलाए राजपद दीन्हा। तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना। युग सहस्त्र जो जन पर पानु लील्यो ताहि मधुर फल जानु। प्रभु मुद्रिका मिली मुख माहि जलधि लांघि जय अजरज नाही। दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुमरे तेते। राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिन पैसारे। सब सुख लहे तुम्हारी शरणा तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज समारो आपे तीनों लोक हाँकते कांपे। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। नासे रोग हरे सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीरा। संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे। चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा है प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नवनिधि के दाता असवर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुमरे पासा सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। तुम्हारे भजन राम जी को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुबरपुर जाए जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई। और देवता चित्तन धरहि हनुमत से सर्व सुख करहि। संकट कटे मिटे सब पीड़ा जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई। जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई, छूट ही बंदी महासुख होई। जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा, होय सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा। तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, कीजय नाथ हृदय महाडेरा। पवन तनय संकट हरन, मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम। मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसहु सुरभूप। तुलसी हृदय बसहु सुरभूप।